Every now and then I speak to a person who shares with me that they have really dark thoughts that come up every now and then, really dark impulses, and it's like, does that make me a bad person? Does this make me evil? Why is this in me? Where is it coming from? Am I a freak? This is so disgusting. It's so awful. It can't be that this is something that other people also have. There's something wrong with me that I'm having these really fucked up thoughts. And the reality is that it's something that pretty much everyone has. It's something that everyone experiences. And the problem with how we deal with it typically is that these dark thoughts or dark impulses come up and we're like, oh my God, what is that? And then we try and shove it down and put it in a box and lock it away and never ever look at it again. And it doesn't exist. It's not real. It's not me. This is my secret, shameful corner that I will never talk about, think about, or anything ever again. And that can be reflected, that can be seen reflected in how we deal with people who have impulse control issues, especially when it comes to violence. Our immediate response is this complete and total revulsion and repulsion of people who do things that are very dark, very awful, and very unacceptable. Now, I'm not saying that these thoughts are good or right, and I'm not saying that the people who act on these dark impulses are good or right or should be excused. The point that I'm making is that because we polarize so strongly against it, we don't actually create the space to understand where it comes from. We don't create the space to understand how to change it. We don't create the space to understand how someone who's acting out these dark impulses came to be that way so that we can prevent it from happening again in the future. And as long as we react so violently and so completely against the things that come up in us that we don't necessarily understand, the more it's going to keep happening and possibly even get worse because we're not dealing with it. And very often what happens is the more that you polarize against something, the more energy it actually creates for that thing. So maybe not in you personally, but in other people, that polarization in itself is enough to turn those dark, secret, shameful thoughts and impulses into ones that are more and more and more likely to become actions. So the way that we're dealing with these things is not healthy and it's not helpful, and essentially at the end of the day all it does is create more of the same. What we need to do is be willing to look at every part of ourselves, including the dark and shameful and strange and unexpected things that come up, without judgment, to take a step back and look at it objectively to see what is this and where the hell did it come from, because this is not something that I want in me. So I better take a look at what it is. I better find a way to deal with it, to let it go, to change my relationship to it so that stuff like this doesn't exist within me anymore. And I'm not saying that it's easy or that it's quick. It is a process. It is something that takes time and commitment and dedication and effort. because the process of investigating ourselves is an active process. It's something that we have to initiate and actively do. We have to actively participate in it and will ourselves into doing it. And the ways that we can do it is, for example, writing is a very effective tool. It's very effective in helping us to see in front of us what's actually going on, what has been going on inside of us. Because when you're looking at everything that's spinning around in your head from inside of you, it's rather confusing, it's rather overwhelming, and very often it's not very clear. It's like you can't see clearly what's actually happening. But once you start writing it down, writing down the thoughts that you're having, the way that you're feeling, and you can see on paper in front of you the recurring topics, the recurring types of thoughts, the recurring types of experiences, and those things in our lives and in ourselves that very often trigger those thoughts and experiences. And within seeing all of that, you empower yourself to say, okay, I'm starting to see the patterns now. I'm starting to see what triggers this particular thought pattern. I'm starting to see that this actually is a pattern. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I've actually been noticing that when I think about it, I'm feeling more and more emotional about it. It's becoming more and more powerful within me. So this is something that I definitely need to deal with. And dealing with it is also a process of it is a process, because part of it is that developing an understanding of it, so not judging it, just seeing, okay, what is it, where did it come from, how was it created, what's the nature of it, what's driving it, what's the source, and then actually creating change, like creating different thinking patterns, creating different ways of dealing with the challenges that we face, the different ways of dealing with emotional reactions that come up. It doesn't mean that, for example, when something happens and I'm triggered and I get angry, it doesn't mean that I'm now going to stop being angry. It means that in the beginning, while I'm teaching myself to respond differently to a situation that usually would have made me angry, yes, I'm going to get angry, but I'm going to deal with that situation differently. I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to do anything that I regret. I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to build on that anger and make it more. I'm going to focus on releasing it and finding a constructive solution. So that's exactly how we need to deal with those dark and shameful things that usually we absolutely refuse to even acknowledge. Practically, objectively, and without judgment. And in so doing, we create the space to help people who have gotten lost in that darkness, and to help people who are on the path to getting lost in that darkness. Alright, if you have any questions, please send a message or leave a comment. If you'd like to support me, you can do so on Patreon, the link is below. If you have particular requests or anything like that, then let me know. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.